Hello, I'm Phil Shea, and I'm going to talk to you today about understanding more complex, difficult behaviour, helping you cope with those kids in a care system or adoption system that are really challenging. And what I'm going to do today is just give you a short understanding of what might be going on with this kid. So I've got some assistants. I've got my assistant here, Heidi, an essential assistant. Aren't you, Heidi? Yeah. And I've got, you can't see them, stacks of puppets here, which I'm going to use to demonstrate things. Now, you can guess it's murder getting all these puppies in and out and everything. So you just have to put up with me here. But that's what's going on. So I'm ready with you. So in order to look at behaviour that's kind of not so complex, we need to look at behaviour, first of all, that is okay, like most of the kids in a typical class might be okay. So what I want to do is just look at the kind of parenting that grows, and the kind of childhood experiences that grows normal quality, good enough behaviour. So let's take Heidi. And Heidi, for the moment, is going to be loved. And you get attention, and she's going to be looked after, cared for, made to feel safe and secure, so she can go out exploring a little bit, come back to mum or dad, knowing there's always a safe base for her to come back to. And we're going to say there's an absence of traumatic events in her young life, an absence of what we might call adverse childhood experiences. And what that experience is going to do is shape and mould Heidi's brain, and indeed her body systems that rely on the brain. And we're going to look a bit about that. Now then, we all have deep within us what we call a freeze response, and I'm representing this freeze response by a dragon because it's usually called a reptilian response. What does that mean? Well, if you go into a zoo and look at reptiles, they often don't want to be there. They don't want to be looked at, so they just don't move. It's how they keep themselves safe. Now, not all reptiles are like this, but our reptilian ancestors way back were. Now, way back when dragons existed, and they did exist. Have you not seen Game of Thrones? They did exist. Right. This dragon was a very powerful thing, but this is kind of a cute puppet dragon, aren't you, my friend? Yeah, very cute. And if we take Heidi, and she's been well looked after and brought up well and been made to feel secure and safe and hasn't really faced huge danger or inappropriate danger, then her freeze response is benign, like this little puppet. And they live in harmony. And she's not fearing for her life all the time. She doesn't need to overuse it. So she can use this freeze response to sit still, pay attention, to learn, to focus. You need the freeze response for that. Now, we also have a term you probably know is a fight and flight response. And it's the same kind of thing, you see. Heidi is brought up safe. And so her fight and flight response is benign. Aren't you? Now, it has to be there to keep her safe. And, she'll get the terrible twos and get very stroppy, won't she? But nevertheless, it'd be a very benign fight and flight response. Now what that means, you see, is there isn't loads and loads of receptors for stress hormones. So when she gets a bit stressed, as she would do, that's okay, and she'll get a bit angry, but then she'll calm down. Now all this is really good stuff for Heidi because it creates a lot of good quality capacity in her brain. And instead of her brain getting tied up in issues of safety and security, you don't have to worry about that, which is great. And so what you can do is develop, I'm struggling with this puppet, develop a little cognitive brain. Have a look, little owl. Now this little owl represents, what we might call the executive functions as they grow, the thinking part of the brain, social engagement. It represents our upper part of our brain, right up here, if you like. Now then, here we go. This little fellow will now grow, and he will grow into a big, powerful owl. Oh. My wife tells me this is a scary owl. Let's have a look. but it's supposed to represent the power. And there's Heidi with this powerful owl, this powerful upper brain system, good quality executive functions, and that means she can learn to speak properly, she can learn to remember things properly, she'll be able to pay attention to things, she'll be able to accept boundaries because she'll find boundaries safe, and she'll be able to reflect sensibly on consequences, she'll feel appropriate shame, and so on. And this owl orchestrates the fight and flight response and the freeze response because they're not too big. And this is what an integrated, balanced, good quality child looks like. And that can be on a continuum. But a child that hasn't suffered excessive adverse child experiences, and a child that's had a good quality, secure upbringing, there's every chance that that can happen. But let's go back to Heidi and let's move her. And we put her in a household that's not so benign. And her upbringing isn't as secure. And maybe she's neglected and left in her prime. Maybe she witnesses domestic violence. Maybe she lies in bed at night listening to voices and worrying. I don't want to go into the kind of details that we might imagine. We can just imagine that this child has experienced what we can say is trauma. Now, it's developmental trauma. It's kind of long-term trauma. It's not that maybe if I was going to go out and get hit by a car or something, that would be traumatic and it might well cause me problems, but at least it ended. But this trauma that these children can engage in, it often doesn't end. And that has big implications for their brain and body systems. So let's come back to Heidi's initial freeze response. And it was this, benign one. But kids who've experienced this bad stuff have an unbenign freeze response. And very, very dominant. Now, we all exist in a continuum between this guy and this guy. And we move between them. And we might think, hey, we're all about this guy. And then something bad happens and we're suddenly with this guy. So we have to maintain, actually, the response. It's where we put our baseline is the issue. Now, when Heidi was being well looked after, her baseline was down here. But now it's up here. And this guy just takes over. Becomes a dominant part of Heidi's life. Now, that would depend on the kind of experience she had. Be still. But nevertheless, it would be there. Now, Heidi also had a nice benign fight and flight response. And we represented it with this puppet. And here we have a really unbenign fight and flight response. Now, once again, we exist in a continuum between this guy and this guy. We have to have them all. It's essential that if I was being attacked or raped, that I was able to fight back if I could. And if I couldn't, I'd be able to freeze to try and keep myself safe. And that's when things get tricky. So this is Heidi's dominant way of being, is more fight and flight, more freeze. It might be more one or the other, depending on the nature of her experiences, depending in fact on whether she's had to freeze more or fight and flight more. But these guys are not bright, and they think they are. They think they're making wise decisions based on security. Now, they may well have been at the time. But quite often when kids are still completely safe, they're in school or home or foster home or adopted home, where they're still completely safe, these guys say, oh no, you're not. You need to freeze, you need to fight and flight, you need to freeze, you need to fight and flight. And this has huge, huge implications for behaviour. Because if these guys are making decisions, these guys are going to be oppositional. This guy's not going to pay attention. This guy's not want to go out and do anything. This guy won't do cooperative play. This guy won't even get play, and so on. Neither of them are particularly responding to language and things like that. See, this is a reptilian brain system. It doesn't even get good quality relationships and attachments. He did in Game of Thrones, but he doesn't really. And so if someone's locked into a freeze response, they don't want to build a relationship with you. Maybe in fight and flight they will, but not in freeze. So it's all kinds of complexities emerge. And what this starts to give us is little baby owl gets stuck as little baby owl. Or you might even get worse and worse and not really be able to do anything at all. And then you start getting all kinds of issues. You might get sensory processing issues because, say for example, this guy is really interested in predator noises, speech noises. What are they? I don't know. That kind of thing. And you might get attention deficit hyperactivity disorder because this guy doesn't want to keep still. And so on. Now, I'm not saying these things don't exist. I'm just saying that trauma is very much in there and very much influencing the behaviour of these young children. So what do we do about it? Because if they're not going to respond to language and not going to respond to boundaries particularly, or not going to respond to consequences, which is actually all the case because these things are just fearful, then what do we do? Well, that is another story. Thanks for listening.